the so large number of clients that have walked through this door, those stories, those client stories, each one different in its own way, and each one similar in that somebody needed help. The fact that we have a staff that can manage the scope of all those stories is what most impacts me. Not the single story, but the vast number of stories.
To be the president of resettlement service during that period of time was life-changing. You saw people who had to leave everything. I think it changed a lot of people in Detroit's views of how lucky we are as Americans, because all of a sudden they saw their counterparts coming here that were Jewish, that had nothing, and had to begin life again.
When the refugee children began coming, we incorporated them because they were unaccompanied minors into the child placement department, and we took care of all the finding of foster homes, placement, supervision, and I must say that was the hardest period of my professional life.
I did work with Holocaust survivors, and one stands out in my mind. She was a woman who was married and had children, and suddenly seemed to break down. Her husband applied for homemaker service to help her during this time. And so I made regular home visits, and she told me that she would find herself out in the backyard some mornings when it was cold and the ground was wet. She would be in her bare feet and somehow have a vision that she was standing at the roll call in the concentration camp. Now, this was a woman who was 5 when she was taken into a concentration camp and lost her whole family. I don't know whatever happened to her because I went on, but I never forgot her. And it was one of the most painful experiences I had, just thinking about what she went through. And I hope that we were of some help to her at a moment when she needed it.
This organization is run by the most professional, dedicated staff you could find anywhere, and we are so lucky.
The employees of Jewish Family Service are among the most dedicated, caring people of any organization that I have ever worked with.
What they do is tough work, and what they do is very hard, and they do it because they love it. We're very fortunate to have professionals like we do at Jewish Family Service in our community, because when you're in crisis or you just need some support, having a professional there who knows the answers and can help direct you and provide that assistance can make all the difference in the world.
The professionals are so skilled. They deal with those in crisis every single day, and they do it with sensitivity and with a sense of professionalism, with confidentiality, with rational, good behavior. They model, and they do the kinds of things that we want in our professionals. And I'm so proud to have been associated with them.
We had very devoted staff. The workers at the agency were terrific. Nobody ever wanted to leave, so there was very little turnover, which for the clients, they reaped the benefit of that they had very caring people to take care of them and who cared about them.
It was impossible for the professional staff to do everything. There's certainly things that the volunteers can and did do. And we had a wonderful group of people, men and women, who were volunteers, and particularly when the Soviet Jews came here, the volunteers made a big difference because we needed manpower and woman power, and they provided a good deal of that.
My husband is a volunteer at the Mentor Connection program, and he's been a volunteer for a lot of years. Gabriel was, I think, 7, and now he's 13. He just had a birthday, and they just love each other. They enjoy being with each other and having company, taking little jaunts here and there around the city, even if it's going to a restaurant for lunch or a movie, or they've gone fishing. So they enjoy each other. But the mentor connection has really been an important part of our lives, and especially his.
People of all socioeconomic levels, all generations, children all the way through the elderly. This agency could not and would not be the part of the community that it is without the support of the volunteers. And the volunteers add so much to the depth and the scope of what this agency can provide.
JFS harnesses volunteer energy in the community like no other agency does. We have thousands of volunteers for fall fix-up, for the Thanksgiving food distribution at Yad Ezra, for all the other activities, and the mentors, and the physicians in Project Chesed, all the attorneys in our legal referral service program. What an amazing collection of volunteers who are giving countless hours and dollars and time and energy to the agency. We could not hire enough people to do what the volunteers do for us.
The agency became aware that more and more people were becoming uninsured. And how would we address that? As a matter of fact, our chief executive officer at the time said, "Why would we worry about health care?" And he said, that's not the purview of a Jewish Family Service. But it became clear that we couldn't just go and pay for people's health insurance. We didn't have the means to do that, and that the need was becoming so large. And that's where we did a study of the community to find out where the gaps were. And as a result, Project Chesed was born.
Because of all the involvement of the volunteers, a program like that becomes so successful and becomes nationally recognized and provides a wonderful service that our community desperately needs.
When Norm was still CEO, Norm shared a letter with me that he had received from a client of Project Chesed, that basically said that Project Chesed saved my life. The client wrote that he was out of a job, he had no health insurance, he was barely keeping food on the table, and without Project Chesed to keep him healthy, he felt like he would have died. So Chesed was a lifesaver, and it was such a touching letter, such a moving letter, such an honest letter. I could not imagine having to write such a letter myself.
I believe that without Project Chesed, I'd never have heard my 5-year-old granddaughter read to me, or my 2-year-old, not quite 2-year-old grandson say, "Love you, Bobby." Those moments wouldn't have happened.
Being president of Jewish Family Service meant that I was helping an organization that literally is the safety net, was and is the safety net for the Jewish community.
It's hard to communicate as a president or someone even being considered for that, the sense of responsibility that you feel, because for many years before you, people have been wonderful leaders, and you always wonder, will I be able to at least match up or do my share? And it's a great responsibility, but a tremendous privilege that I wouldn't trade for anything. It was wonderful.
It was really one of the highlights of my career as a volunteer. I felt very flattered to have been asked and to be able to do the work and help organize and help run the agency, and it was a real great experience which I treasure.
Being president was a real eye-opener for me. I thought I knew the Jewish community pretty well. Until you serve as the president of an agency, especially an agency like JFS, which is serving the most vulnerable in our community. Until you do that, you don't really know our community at all.
Anybody who's a volunteer knows that the volunteer gets more than the people that are being helped, and anybody who's done extensive volunteering will tell you that. So I just felt blessed or very lucky to be involved with such an amazing organization with a staff that cared so much about the work they did, and to be a part of that was very fulfilling.
My hope for Jewish Family Service in the future is that we will be able to continue to get the funding that we need in order to be able to do what we do better than any other group can do it.
Today the agency is expanded. It's covering a lot more activities than we did, but that's the way it is. I stood on the shoulders of those who came before me, and today they stand on the shoulders of those who came in the past.
The monies that were invested in this agency really make a difference and allow the individuals who are the recipients of the support to have the dignity and to realize their greatest potential.
Caring.
Compassion.
Community.
Hope.
Trust.
Lifeboat.
Dignity.
Support.
Responded.
Service.
Caring.
I think when people pass through the door, they walk out with hope.